In some shocking news this week, ESPN let go of over 20 on-air personalities, including some notable names who have been with the network for years. On the cut list included Jeff Van Gundy, Keyshawn Johnson, Max Kellerman, Suzy Kolber, Matt Hasselbeck, Steve Young, Rob Ninkovich, Neil Everett, Ashley Brewer, Todd McShay, Jordan Cornette, and David Pollock. Of course, some of the more shocking names on that list included Jeff Van Gundy and Suzy Kolber, both of whom had been with ESPN for well over a decade. In the case of Suzy Kolber, over 27 years. Here's how she reacted on Twitter to the news. Quote, "Today I join many hard-working colleagues who have been laid off. Heartbreaking, but 27 years at ESPN was a good run. So grateful for a 38-year career. Longevity for a woman in this business is something I'm especially proud of. Next step, a project that gives back." Suzy Kolber wasn't the only person let go who chimed in on Twitter. Ashley Brewer said, and I quote, "I am so grateful for my time at ESPN and the opportunity to host SportsCenter. I learned and grew so much as a broadcaster and a person. I will really miss all of the wonderful friends I made along the way. I know God has a plan for my life, and I look forward to what's next." June Lee was also let go of ESPN and said the following on Twitter: "My time at ESPN is over. Incredibly grateful for all the opportunities I received over the last 4+ years. I got to live out my literal childhood dream job, worked with some of the most talented people, and made so many friends. Really excited to see whatever comes next." Outside of Suzy Kolber, the four names that I think stood out the most amongst this list was Jeff Van Gundy, Max Kellerman, Todd McShay, and Steve Young. Jeff Van Gundy has been an institution at ESPN, has called multiple NBA finals, has been their main analyst for years at this point, and offered some of the most iconic moments in NBA playoff and finals history. So not hearing his name on the call moving forward is going to be very different, and I think to many fans is going to leave the NBA finals feel like there's something missing moving forward. Max Kellerman, of course, was once the co-host of First Take along with Stephen A. Smith. He then moved on to have his own show. He hosted ESPN's morning radio show, and he was seen as someone whose job was always going to be safe because he was always doing something that either drew ratings or that got buzz. And Max Kellerman was someone who was not only respected by fans, but was also respected by many colleagues. But of course, when these budget cuts happen, that isn't the first priority for these networks. The first priority is making the budget work. And Max Kellerman, like I said, someone who has been rising up through the ranks for the past number of years in ESPN, you would think that leaving his contract behind and cutting him would actually save ESPN a lot of money, and that really is what is behind all of these moves. Another surprising name on this list was Todd McShay, someone who has been at ESPN for nearly 20 years, someone who has been a staple of their NFL draft coverage, someone who alongside Mel Kiper Jr. really made the drafts and the lead up to the draft feel special, and whose analysis many fans and even some NFL teams leaned on in predicting and deciding who would be drafted. Finally, we go to Steve Young, who was amongst a few NFL analysts who were let go as a part of these cuts. And the reason I bring him up is because Steve Young has been part of ESPN for a very long time, much longer than many of these other analysts that I mentioned. And he's someone whose expertise and knowledge I think will be missed by ESPN and their NFL coverage. This is someone who's won Super Bowls. He's won Super Bowl MVPs. He's gone out there and done it all. He's a Hall of Famer. And having his voice on Monday Night Football, hearing him give his analysis, it meant something and it made the show feel special. And given how long he was at the network, I think, again, you're going to see a hole on Monday Night Football given his departure. And now we move finally to the reason why all of this is happening. I know a lot of people believe that this is linked to layoffs at Disney. However, the reality is that ESPN recently just made one of the biggest acquisitions that they could have made in bringing on Pat McAfee and hosting the Pat McAfee Show on their YouTube channel in a historic $85 million deal that is going to change the way everyone views and perceives sports talk. While Pat McAfee doesn't necessarily agree with these critics, the reality is at some point ESPN needed to make the money work, and by hook or by crook, they just did. I want to hear from you. What did you guys think about this news? Who are some people whose voice you are going to miss on ESPN? Let me know in the comment section. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. This has been The Real Take News.